When someone dies, the things that keep them here become brittle. Some people's tethers snap immediately upon death, and for those people they pass on to the afterlife. However, some don't make a successful transition. These people refuse to make peace with their death and become ghosts. Ghosts are either sad, mad, or confused over their death. Sometimes they are all three, and depending on the depth of their emotions, they can interact with their environment. These unfortunate souls are in the minority. However, on the extremely rare occasions, people recognize when they die, but sadly their tether does not. As a result, they end up stuck there. When this happens, they are unable to move from the area of their death. Even if they try leaving in any direction, they always end up back in the place where they started. They're merely spectators. And that's where the funeral comes in. The family, the friends, or whoever prepares the body. They place the deceased person in the coffin, shroud, crematorium, or whatever. The physical, emotional, and earthly ties become final. The spirit starts feeling tired. In a couple of seconds they begin fading, and then the stubborn tether snaps. And they go to the afterlife the soul deserves. Sounds pretty simple, right? For the most part it is, mostly. You see, if your tether doesn't snap and you were, for argument's sake, murdered and buried in the middle of the woods, if nobody discovers you, and the murderers who buried you don't know how to cut tethers, you're stranded, just like me. The reason I know this is that an old ghost informed me. He also told me that there was no way he could aid me. All I could do is wait until the police or someone finally finds my corpse. He feels excitingly bad for me though, and hopes I don't end up like him. He's been in this little groove since he died from falling off his horse many years ago, so with nothing to do, I wait. I'm stranded in this clearing, desperately wanting to leave, hoping someone finally unearths my remains. I got away just in time. A second later, and I'm certain my tragic tale would have joined the increasing reports of the grisly happenings around town and fitted seamlessly with the mysterious, gruesome patterns. My house, like many others in my estate and beyond, is a bungalow behind a small lawn. Unlike all others, however, I'd incorporate crawl spaces accessible through all the compartments within 2 rooms, my bedroom and my study, a kitchen, dining room, the bathroom, and the parlor. Serving in the military's vanguard in Normandy had inculcated rigorous vigilance in me, had tuned my senses to register danger's wavelength. Therefore, I'd included the crawl spaces in the building's design in case of situations beyond my handling. Worst of which I'd considered would be a sudden overrun of armed, uncouth youths on a rampaging demonstration. I'm an old man. I just wanted to enjoy my remaining lives and limbs. I lost my right leg in the war, got a plastic replacement just last year, but the situation that plagued the town was beyond anyone's handling, or even understanding, until tonight. And yet it needs no small measure of elucidation. A month ago it started, reported by Sheriff James Halliday. We had this relationship where he kept very little from me, something about respect and aspiration he'd done little to withhold from me. He kept me in eminent esteem. The Robinsons on Hadley Crescent were found dead by the kids, school teachers, following 2 days of absence. Their corpses had undergone some severe form of Mephistophelian abuse. Punctured holes polluted every inch of their flesh, and they were mangled and deflated, like a burst balloon. Not a bead of moisture was found in them during the autopsy. They had been sucked dry, evidently through the orifices that riddled them. But by what? 2 weeks later, Roman Wellfeller, the hermit on Wise Avenue, followed. Then Isaac Lopez and his wife, Lucy. Then the Gregors. The Gregors was just 4 days ago. Unlike the rest, they were probably outdoors when they had been suctioned. They were found in their van right on their driveway, doors unlocked with no symptoms of forced entry. Like the perpetrator of the despicable deeds had committed them inside the van with the family or outside the vehicle, then had taken them inside. No prints were recovered save the family's, no alien footprints on their sandy garden. All attacks had happened at night between the hours of 10 and 12. The townspeople were already packing. A riot wasn't far away, as if it would help things any. I tried to take everything smoothly but warily. I tried to convince myself that there was a rational explanation, that rational explanation could take a bullet. I served in the forefront of the war. No worries. I succeeded in the self-persuasion. My August visitor above ground has completely modified my perspective. I was half asleep tonight when my sixth sense picked the signal. A sudden diffusing iciness in the atmosphere, gripping my Luger and smaller Glock from beneath the pillow, both fully loaded. I tiptoed to my bedroom door, opened it a crack and looked out. What my eyes met was outside the bounds of natural convention. I was transfixed by an otherworldly phenomenon, gripped by a nightmarish thing. I doubt there is any reasonable account and description for what I saw, but here, the form was blacker than the night it had come from, like a substantial shadow risen from the ground, like a mesomorphic personage of blackened flesh and black entrails and black body fluids and black skeleton. I cannot say if it was clothed or naked, but if naked then it was genderless too. The sole feature upon its face was a large lopsided eye so large it stretched from forehead to chin and had a monstrously red pupil that wandered in all directions with an avid rapidity. Tattooed on its body from chest to knees were mouth parts filled with vampiric fangs. The abomination stood there in my living room, sensing, I believe, my blood, searching for me. Then its fiery pupil rested on me, caught me through my little crack. I fled. My bedroom's access to the aforementioned crawlspace was via a trapdoor beneath my bed. I didn't make time or waste some lifting the bed. I dived under straight away, found myself down here in seconds. Although I may have caused a racket while forcing the trapdoor open, and I may have slammed it shut, but I don't believe I was followed. I can escape through the front ladder, or go back then circle around, be circumspect. The hideous predator might be waiting on my lawn, but in the meantime, I will remain down here where it's safe. If I could survive for 6 days without food and water in a bunker while the enemy routed half my platoon above, I think this won't be as overly difficult. Oklahoma County News. Panic as death toll rises in Midwich County by Lance Inglethorpe. Tuesday 20th, October 15, 8 a.m. A series of gruesome and unexplained deaths has led to a state of upheaval and revolt among the county dwellers as the police yet again fails to unmask the culprit behind the morbid killings of no fewer than 7 citizens. County Chief James. Click to see more. Source: The Midwich Insider. The Midwich Insider. Another joins the growing ranks of the dead. Friday, 10/16/2015. No one can better explain the bizarre incidents going on around town better than the county patrol, but they themselves are at an utter loss as to the identity of the perpetrators of the heinous murders that has raked town. 2 nights ago, the serial murderer claimed what will be their 12th recorded victim. Retired Officer Milton Williamson found dead in a compartment beneath his house in the early morning hours of Thursday. The signature of the killer was evident: flaccid, mutilated remains and unnatural orifices. Neighbors suggest he met his gruesome end sometime around the hours of 3 and 5 a.m.